Yo, a lively book review again. Just want to tell you about this book I've just finished reading, Catch-22 by Joseph Heller. It's quite an old book. I picked it up in the library the other day, just searching for a book that I wanted to read while I was away on holiday, and this sort of caught my eye and I thought I'd just pick it up. It's quite a long book, so you probably have to be quite patient with it, but you know, it took a little while to get into it. It was quite slow to begin with, but after a while I really got into it, really enjoyed it. I loved it, in fact. It's about, the protagonist is this guy called Yossarian, who you know, he's in the Second World War, so it's a war-based book, which is something that, you know, a lot of guys might like to read, a lot of guys and girls might like to read, and it comes at war from another angle. It's quite a cynical book. The guy Yossarian, he's a bit mad, he's a bit off the wall. He's a fighter pilot in the Second World War. He's actually a bombardier, so he's in charge of, you know, when they fly over the targets, he's in charge of releasing the bombs. And it's just crazy, you know, it's a really crazy book. On the blurb on the back it says that Stephen King says this is one of the best novels. He says it actually, let me read what he says. He says, to my mind there have only been two great American novels in the past 50 years. Catch-22 is one of them, Stephen King. That's a quote by Stephen King. So, you know, I know when, you know, other authors write, you know, quotes or reviews of books, they usually do a positive job, but, you know, this is Stephen King, you know, this is one of the best authors around. So that was one of the things that attracted me to this book. So I picked it up, I read it, and as I said, it took a while to get into, but once I get into it, it's really cool. You know, there's lots of variant characters in it, lots of really funny moments. Like, it's an hilarious book, but it's not that, you know, sort of blood and thunder American type proud, you know, book. It comes at war from another angle, a more of a cynical angle, and I'd say probably a more realistic angle. You know, there's a lot of philosophy in it, but it's philosophy I feel that's underpinned by humour, or certainly underpinned by humour in a cynical nature. The main protagonist, as I said, is a guy called Yossarian, and he is obsessed to the point of paranoia that he's trying to be killed, which he is. You know, it's a war, so he's right, but he's surrounded by a lot of people who can't understand his mentality. Like, he can't understand his philosophy of why he wants to get out of the war, and he's always trying to do things to get him out of the war. You know, he's always, you know, really paranoid, really cynical, and he's surrounded by loads of really interesting characters, as I've already said. And yeah, I mean, in terms of a book, it became one of my favourite books that I've read recently, but it took a while for me to get into it. You know, the first maybe 4 or 5 chapters are quite slow, and then it just sort of picks up. But it doesn't pick up in a story sense, you know, like the storyline is pretty basic. It revolves around this base in Italy where all the American bombardiers and fighter pilots are staying during the Second World War. And they do move locations, like they go to Rome, and then there's other things that go on. But what really picks up is the humour, the human and the humour element. So the human element is about what these guys are going through, the different personalities, the different characters that they've got surrounded them on this base, and the humour element is how they all interact together. You know, what kind of issues they're dealing with, and as I said, it's quite cynical, so it drags that humour out through cynicism, and I actually really enjoyed it in the end. You know, towards the end I couldn't put it down. I always get like this with books, I just can't put, you know, a good book down. And as I said, it's quite a thick book, you know, it's not an easy read, so you really have to be dedicated to this book, but it's ultimately, it's really beneficial. Like, It's one of those books where you feel like you learn a lot about human nature, social dynamics, and it comes across and explains war from a different point of view, a more refreshing point of view, in fact. You know, a point of view where you actually think, yeah, you know, I would feel those kinds of things if I was in that situation. So I just wanted to give you a quick review on this book, Catch-22. You know, I did love it. If I was going to give it out of stars, 5 out of stars, I would probably give it, you know, maybe a 3.5 to 4 stars out of 5. I think it's really, you know, really top notch. You would enjoy it. Get past the first maybe 4 or 5 chapters and then it starts to really pick up. So I hope you go and get it. I hope you have a read. Please, obviously, let me know what you think about this book in the comments below. And just tell me if you want me to review any other books. You know, I'm always reading, so more of these reviews are going to come out. I'm just doing them as a hobby. I love to read books and I love to tell people about the good books I read. So, Catch-22, Joseph Heller, quite old, grab it, really appreciate it, you'll really treasure it. It's a great read. Lots of social dynamics, lots of cynicism, lots of humour. Brilliant. Okay, cheers guys.